There's a strange misunderstanding in today's world. Many people believe respect comes from speaking the loudest. They think the person who dominates every conversation, wins every argument, or constantly proves themselves is the one everyone admires. But look closely at the people who command genuine respect. The wise teacher, the calm leader, the disciplined athlete, the person who never panics under pressure, the individual who walks into a room without needing attention, yet somehow captures it anyway. What do they all have in common? It isn't loudness. It isn't popularity. It isn't intimidation. It's something far quieter, something the Stoics understood more than 2,000 years ago. Real respect is never demanded. It is quietly earned through consistent character. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's greatest Stoic philosophers and the Emperor of Rome, ruled over one of the largest empires in the world. Yet, when you read his private journal, now known as Meditations, you don't find a man obsessed with making people admire him. You find someone constantly asking himself, am I acting with wisdom? Am I living according to virtue? Am I controlling what is within my power? He understood something many people never learn. If you spend your life chasing respect, you'll probably lose it. But if you spend your life building character, respect often follows naturally. Today, people exhaust themselves trying to impress others. They seek validation through social media. They measure their worth by likes, followers, compliments, and applause. They over-explain every decision. They argue to prove they're right. They compete for attention. Yet despite all that effort, they still feel unseen. Why? Because attention and respect are not the same thing. Attention is easy to gain. Respect must be earned. Attention lasts for a moment. Respect can last for decades. Attention is often based on appearance. Respect is built on character. The Stoics knew this. That's why they focused less on controlling how others saw them and more on becoming people worthy of admiration. Ironically, this mindset made them impossible to ignore. So today, we're exploring 9 silent behaviors that instantly earn respect. Not because they're tricks or manipulation tactics, but because they reflect genuine strength of character. These aren't behaviors designed to control people. They're habits that transform you from the inside out. And when you change within, the world often changes the way it responds to you. Let's begin with the first silent behavior. Behavior 1. Remain calm when others expect you to react. Imagine someone insults you. They criticize your work. They question your abilities. Or perhaps they deliberately try to provoke you in front of others. Most people react immediately. Their voice gets louder. Their heart races. They interrupt. They defend themselves. Sometimes they even say things they'll regret later. Now imagine another person in the same situation. They pause. They take a slow breath. Their face remains composed. They listen. When they finally speak, their words are measured, thoughtful, and calm. Who earns more respect? Almost always it's the second person, not because they were silent out of fear, but because they demonstrate control over the only thing that truly belongs to them, their response. This is one of the central teachings of Stoicism. Epictetus famously taught that we are disturbed not by events themselves, but by our judgments about those events. Think about that. An insult is simply a collection of words. Whether those words destroy your peace depends largely on how you interpret them. This doesn't mean pretending insults don't hurt. The Stoics never claimed wise people are emotionless. They understood emotions arise naturally. But they also believe we have a choice about what happens next. That brief pause between stimulus and response is where your freedom lives. Marcus Aurelius wrote that if someone does wrong, they do wrong to themselves first. In other words, another person's anger reveals more about their character than yours. If someone loses control, why should you lose yours as well? Imagine 2 fires. One fire begins burning nearby. Would you throw your own house into flames just because someone else's house is burning? Of course not. Yet emotionally, that's exactly what many people do. Someone becomes angry, so they become angry. Someone spreads negativity, so they spread negativity. Someone insults them, so they return an even harsher insult. The cycle continues. The Stoic breaks the cycle, not through weakness, but through discipline. Calmness isn't passive. It's powerful. People often mistake emotional restraint for lack of confidence. The opposite is true. Anyone can shout. Anyone can lose their temper. Very few people can remain composed when everyone around them is emotional. That's rare, and rarity naturally commands respect. Think about leaders during a crisis. Who inspires confidence? The one who panics, or the one who remains steady while everyone else loses perspective? History consistently rewards calm minds, not because they avoid problems, but because they solve them. The next time someone tries to provoke you, remember this. You don't have to attend every battle you're invited to. Sometimes the strongest statement you can make is refusing to become emotionally controlled by someone else's behavior. Your peace is worth more than your pride. Why calm people are so difficult to manipulate? There are people who survive by creating emotional chaos. They provoke, they gossip, they exaggerate, they criticize, not because they're searching for truth, but because they want reactions. Reactions give them influence. If they can make you angry, they've controlled your emotional state. If they can make you desperate for approval, they've gained power. If they can make you question yourself with a single comment, they've discovered your weakness. The Stoic refuses to hand over that power. Instead of reacting automatically, they ask themselves, is this within my control? The other person's behavior? No. My response? Yes. That question changes everything. Because every time you choose your response instead of surrendering it, you strengthen your character. Over time, people notice, not because you're trying to impress them, but because consistency always leaves an impression. Behavior, too. Listen more than you speak. We live in a world where everyone wants to be heard. Few people genuinely want to understand. Conversations have become competitions. One person speaks. The other waits for their turn, not to listen, but to respond. The Stoics approach communication differently. They understood that wisdom often begins with silence. Epictetus offered a timeless piece of advice. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. Simple, yet profound. Think about the wisest person you've ever met. Were they constantly talking? Probably not. More often than not, wise people observe before they speak. They ask thoughtful questions. They allow others to finish. They don't interrupt simply to prove a point. This creates something incredibly valuable. Presence. People feel respected when they're truly heard. And interestingly, those who make others feel respected often earn respect in return. Listening is not weakness. Listening is discipline. When you listen carefully, you gather information. You understand motivations. You notice emotions hidden beneath words. You learn. The person constantly talking rarely discovers anything new. The person listening learns every minute. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that every individual has something to teach, even those with whom you disagree. Imagine entering a room believing you already know everything. You'll leave knowing exactly what you knew before. Now imagine entering with curiosity. You'll leave wiser. Curiosity is one of the quietest forms of confidence. It says, I don't need to prove I'm intelligent. I'm secure enough to keep learning. That mindset naturally earns respect. Silence makes your words more powerful. Have you ever noticed that some people speak constantly, yet very little of what they say is remembered? Then there are others who speak only occasionally. But when they do, everyone listens. Why? Because silence gives weight to words. If every thought is immediately spoken, words lose value. If words are chosen carefully, they gain significance. Seneca believed that wisdom is revealed not by the quantity of speech, but by its quality. Ask yourself, do your words create clarity or simply noise? Before speaking, the Stoic considers 3 questions. Is it true? Is it necessary? Is it helpful? If the answer is no, silence often becomes the wiser choice. This doesn't mean becoming quiet all the time. It means becoming intentional. Speak when your words add value. Remain silent when they don't. Over time, people begin noticing something remarkable. You don't speak often, but when you do, it matters. That quiet discipline earns respect more effectively than endless conversation ever could. The Stoic challenge. As you finish this first part, I want to leave you with 2 simple challenges. For the next week, practice remaining calm whenever someone tries to provoke you. Don't suppress your emotions. Observe them. Pause before responding. Choose your words instead of allowing your emotions to choose them for you. Then practice listening more than speaking. Ask one more question than usual. Interrupt one less time. Allow moments of silence without rushing to fill them. You may be surprised by what happens. People will begin sharing more with you. You'll notice details you've missed before. And, perhaps most importantly, you'll begin discovering a quiet confidence that doesn't rely on being the loudest person in the room. Because respect isn't earned by demanding attention. It's earned by demonstrating character. Behavior 3. Keep your promises, especially when it's difficult. Imagine two people. The first constantly makes promises. I'll call you tomorrow. I'll be there. I'll finish the work. You can count on me. But something always comes up. They're late. They cancel. They forget. They apologize. Then they repeat the cycle. Now imagine another person. They don't promise often, but whenever they do, you never question whether they'll follow through. Which person do you trust? The answer is obvious. Respect grows where reliability lives. One of the quietest ways to earn respect is to become someone whose word means something. In today's world, this has become surprisingly rare. People make commitments based on how they feel in the moment, then abandon them when their feelings change. But Stoicism teaches something different. It teaches that character is measured not by what you intend to do, but by what you consistently do. Marcus Aurelius believed that every action should reflect virtue, not convenience. Anyone can stay committed when life is easy. Anyone can keep their word when nothing gets in the way. But what about when you're tired, busy, discouraged? What about when nobody is watching? That is where character reveals itself. Because discipline begins where motivation ends. People don't respect perfection. They respect consistency. Think about the people you admire most. It's rarely because they never failed. It's because they kept showing up again and again and again. Over time, your reputation becomes your silent introduction. Before you even enter a room, people already have expectations about you. They know whether you're dependable, whether you're honest, whether your words carry weight. And here's something important. Keeping promises doesn't only apply to others. It also applies to yourself. How many times have you told yourself, I'll start tomorrow. I'll wake up early. I'll stop procrastinating. I'll exercise. I'll finally become disciplined. Then tomorrow comes, and nothing changes. Every broken promise to yourself weakens your self-confidence, not because you failed once, but because your mind begins believing your own words cannot be trusted. Eventually, your inner voice loses credibility. Imagine having a friend who constantly breaks promises. Would you rely on them? Probably not. So why should your own mind trust you if you repeatedly disappoint yourself? The Stoics understood that self-respect begins with self-trust, and self-trust is built one kept promise at a time. Start small. Keep your word today, then tomorrow, then the next day. Eventually, discipline becomes your identity, and people notice, not because you announce it, because your actions quietly speak for themselves. Behavior 4. Stop explaining yourself to everyone. One of the biggest signs of insecurity is the constant need to justify every decision. Someone misunderstands you. You immediately explain. Someone questions your choices. You defend yourself. Someone criticizes you. You spend hours trying to change their opinion. But ask yourself this. Why do you feel responsible for managing everyone's perception of you? The truth is, you can't. No matter how clearly you explain yourself, some people will still misunderstand you. Some people have already decided who you are, and no amount of explanation will change that. Marcus Aurelius faced criticism throughout his life. As emperor, every decision he made was judged. If he had tried to satisfy every opinion, he would have accomplished nothing. Instead, he returned to one simple question. Am I acting according to my principles? If the answer was yes, he moved forward. The Stoic understands a difficult truth. Not everyone deserves an explanation. That doesn't mean becoming rude or refusing accountability. If you've made a mistake, own it. If you've hurt someone, Apologize sincerely. If clarification is necessary, offer it once. But after that, let your actions continue the conversation. Some people become trapped in endless cycles of explanation. They're afraid of being misunderstood, so they keep talking, trying to convince, trying to prove, trying to gain approval. But often, the more you explain, the weaker your position appears. Not because explanation is wrong, but because desperation rarely earns respect. Quiet confidence says, I've acted with integrity. I cannot control what everyone believes. That mindset is incredibly freeing. Imagine how much energy you'd recover if you stopped worrying about every opinion. How much peace would return if you accepted that misunderstanding is part of life. Epictetus reminded us that what others think belongs to them. Your responsibility is your conduct, not their interpretation. Let your life answer the questions. Suppose someone says you're lazy. You could argue for an hour. Or you could quietly continue building a life of discipline. Months later, your results become the answer. Someone says you'll never succeed. Instead of debating them, you continue improving. Years later, your life speaks louder than your words ever could. This is a Stoic way. Less defending, more becoming. Your character should carry the burden of proof, not endless explanations. Behavior 5. Walk away from unnecessary conflict. Have you ever noticed how some people seem addicted to arguments? Every disagreement becomes a battle. Every criticism becomes war. Every conversation becomes an opportunity to prove they're right. The Stoics refused to live this way, not because they feared conflict, but because they understood something profound. Not every battle deserves your energy. Imagine someone throws mud at you. Would you throw yourself into the mud to prove you're cleaner? Of course not. Yet emotionally, people do this every day. Someone insults them. They respond with greater insults. Someone gossips. They gossip back. Someone behaves immaturely. They lower themselves to the same level. And afterward, everyone loses. Seneca warned that anger punishes the person who carries it more than the person who caused it. Think about how much life is wasted replaying arguments, imagining better responses, seeking revenge, trying to win debates that no longer matter. Hours become days. Days become weeks. All because someone couldn't let go. The Stoic asks a different question. Will this matter a year from now? If not, why sacrifice your peace today? Walking away isn't surrender. Sometimes it's wisdom. Sometimes the strongest person in the room is the one who refuses to continue an argument that serves no purpose. People often mistake silence for weakness. In reality, silence can be extraordinary strength, because it takes far more discipline to control your tongue than to let it run freely. The difference between ego and wisdom. Most unnecessary conflict begins with one thing. Ego. Ego wants the last word. Ego wants to win. Ego wants recognition. Ego wants everyone to admit it's right. Wisdom asks something different. What outcome am I trying to create? If proving you're right destroys a relationship, was winning worth it? If the argument steals your peace, did you really win? Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that people act according to what they believe is right. That doesn't excuse harmful behavior, but it does create compassion. Instead of immediately assuming malice, the Stoic first considers ignorance. Many people aren't trying to hurt you. They're simply acting from their own fears, their own experiences, their own limitations. Understanding this makes forgiveness easier, not because people always deserve it, but because your peace does. Choose your battles wisely. Imagine a lion. Does it chase every barking dog? No, it continues walking, not because it's afraid, because it understands its energy has greater value. Your life works the same way. Every unnecessary conflict steals attention from your purpose. Every pointless argument delays your growth. Every emotional battle drains energy that could have built something meaningful. Ask yourself before responding, is this helping my future or only satisfying my ego? That single question can change your life. By now, you've probably noticed something surprising. None of these behaviors require money. They don't require fame. They don't require an impressive title, expensive clothes, or a powerful social media presence. Everything we've discussed so far is completely within your control. That's exactly why the Stoics place so much emphasis on them. Because if your confidence depends on external things, then your confidence can be taken away. But if it comes from your character, no one can steal it. So far, we've explored 5 silent behaviors. Remain calm under pressure. Listen more than you speak. Keep your promises. Stop explaining yourself to everyone. Walk away from unnecessary conflict. Now, we're about to explore 3 more behaviors that separate people who simply attract attention from those who earn lasting respect. These habits are quiet, sometimes almost invisible, yet they leave a lasting impression on everyone you meet. Behavior 6. Stay humble even when you succeed. Success changes people. Or, perhaps more accurately, success reveals people. Some individuals achieve a little success and suddenly believe they're better than everyone else. They begin talking more than listening. They seek admiration. They constantly remind others of their accomplishments. They expect special treatment. But the Stoics warn against this. Marcus Aurelius ruled the Roman Empire. He had more power than almost anyone alive. Yet every morning he reminded himself that he was simply another human being. He reflected on his weaknesses. He acknowledged his mistakes. He understood that power without humility eventually becomes arrogance, and arrogance always isolates. Think about the people you genuinely admire. Chances are they aren't constantly telling you how great they are. Their confidence is quiet. Their achievements speak for themselves. They don't need to dominate every conversation. They don't need everyone to know what they've accomplished. Why? Because truly confident people don't depend on recognition. They've already earned their own respect. Humility is often misunderstood. Some people think being humble means thinking less of yourself. It doesn't. Humility means thinking of yourself less often. It means recognizing your strengths without believing they make you superior. It means celebrating your progress without forgetting how much there is still to learn. The Stoic knows that today's success can disappear tomorrow. Health can change. Fortunes can shift. Positions can be lost. That's why they don't build their identity on achievements alone. Instead, they build it on character. Character remains when everything else changes. Success is a test of character. Most people think adversity reveals character. It does. But success reveals character too. When life rewards you, will you remain kind? When people begin admiring you, will you continue treating everyone with respect? When your goals finally become reality, will you remember those who helped you? Or will your ego convince you that you did everything alone? Seneca believed prosperity often creates greater dangers than hardship. Why? Because hardship teaches humility. Success tempts pride. The Stoic protects themselves against pride by remembering one important truth. Everything external is temporary. Wealth, status, recognition, even life itself. Knowing this doesn't create fear. It creates gratitude. Instead of becoming arrogant, you become appreciative. Instead of boasting, you become generous. Instead of seeking applause, you quietly continue improving. People notice that, not immediately, but over time, because humble people make others feel comfortable. Arrogant people make others feel small. Respect grows where humility lives. Behavior 7. Treat everyone with quiet respect. One of the clearest signs of a person's character is how they treat people who can do nothing for them. Anyone can be polite to a boss. Anyone can smile at someone important. Anyone can show kindness when there's something to gain. But what about the waiter? The cleaner? The security guard? The elderly neighbor? The stranger asking for directions? The person who disagrees with you? The Stoics believed every human being shares the same fundamental dignity. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that we were created to work together, not against each other. Imagine walking into a room. One person ignores everyone they consider unimportant. Another person greets everyone with equal courtesy. Who earns deeper respect? The answer is obvious, because genuine respect isn't selective. It's consistent. People notice how you treat others, even when you think they aren't paying attention. Especially then, your reputation isn't built by your biggest moments. It's built by thousands of small ones. Holding a door, keeping your word, speaking kindly, being patient, showing gratitude, listening carefully, helping without expecting recognition. These moments seem insignificant, but together they define your character. And character earns trust. Kindness is not weakness. Many people mistake kindness for weakness. The Stoics disagreed completely. It takes very little strength to become cruel. Anger is easy. Patience is difficult. Insults are easy. Understanding is difficult. Revenge is easy. Forgiveness is difficult. Kindness requires discipline, not naive kindness that allows people to exploit you. Wise kindness. Kindness with boundaries. Compassion without surrendering self-respect. Imagine someone speaks harshly to you. Your instinct says, speak harshly back. The Stoic pauses, not because they're afraid, because they refuse to let someone else's behavior determine their own. Your values should not change simply because someone else forgot theirs. That's real strength, and people remember it. Years later, they may forget what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel. Behavior 8. Become comfortable with solitude. Perhaps nothing reveals quiet confidence more than a person who is completely comfortable being alone. Not lonely. Alone. There's a difference. Loneliness says, I need someone to complete me. Solitude says, I enjoy my own company while remaining open to meaningful relationships. Most people fear silence. They constantly seek distractions, notifications, entertainment, conversations, noise, anything to avoid sitting with their own thoughts. The Stoics embraced solitude. They saw it as an opportunity, a chance to reflect, to examine themselves, to strengthen the mind. Marcus Aurelius wrote many of his deepest reflections while carrying enormous responsibilities. Instead of escaping inward reflection, he welcomed it. Ask yourself, when was the last time you spent an hour alone without reaching for your phone, without television, without social media, without constant stimulation, just thinking, just observing, just reflecting? For many people, that feels uncomfortable because silence reveals what's happening inside us, our fears, our insecurities, our unresolved emotions. But that's exactly why solitude is valuable. You cannot strengthen a mind you've never examined. Why people respect those who don't fear being alone. Think about someone who constantly seeks validation. They need attention, approval, reassurance. They panic when someone doesn't respond immediately. They remain in unhealthy relationships because they're terrified of being alone. Now imagine someone different. They enjoy friendships. They value love. They appreciate companionship. But they don't lose themselves when they're alone. Their happiness doesn't disappear with someone else's absence. Who appears stronger? The answer is obvious. Again, not because they're pretending not to care, but because they've built a life that isn't dependent on constant external validation. The Stoic understands an important truth. If you're afraid of being alone, you'll tolerate almost anything to avoid it. Disrespect, manipulation, neglect, one-sided relationships, because fear weakens your boundaries. But when you become comfortable with solitude, everything changes. You stop begging people to stay. You stop chasing those who repeatedly leave. You stop sacrificing your peace just to avoid temporary loneliness. You begin choosing relationships based on quality, not desperation. That quiet confidence commands respect, because people recognize someone who doesn't abandon themselves simply to keep others around. The power of inner peace. Here's something remarkable. The people who seem the calmest often aren't living easier lives. They've simply trained their minds differently. They've learned that peace doesn't come from controlling the world. It comes from controlling themselves. The Stoics face wars, illness, loss, political conflict, personal betrayal. Yet they repeatedly return to the same question: what is within my control? That question can transform your life. You can't control how people treat you. You can't control whether everyone likes you. You can't control criticism. You can't control rejection. But you can control your character, your attitude, your effort, your response. And that's enough. Because once your peace depends on your own conduct rather than someone else's behavior, you become remarkably difficult to shake. People notice that stability. They respect it. They trust it, because stability is rare. Behavior 9. Lie by your principles. Even when no one is watching. Imagine two people. The first behaves well only when others are looking. They're honest when there's a reward, kind when it's convenient, disciplined when someone is paying attention, respectful when it benefits them. Now imagine another person. They do the right thing whether anyone notices or not. They return lost money even if no one would ever know. They keep working when there is no applause. They remain disciplined in private. They speak truthfully even when lying would be easier. Which person deserves your respect? The answer is obvious. Because integrity cannot be performed. It can only be lived. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that the purpose of life wasn't to appear virtuous. It was to become virtuous. There is an enormous difference. Many people spend their lives managing appearances. The Stoic spends their life building substance. Appearances fool people for a while. Character reveals itself over time. Sooner or later, every mask falls. Every performance ends. Only character remains. That's why integrity is one of the rarest qualities in the modern world. It asks something difficult of us. It asks us to be the same person in private that we are in public, to have one set of values instead of two, one for when people are watching and another for when they're not. The Stoics believe this kind of consistency creates inner peace. Why? Because there's nothing to hide, nothing to pretend, nothing to maintain. You simply live according to your principles. Day after day, choice after choice. Your daily habits are your true identity. Many people think identity is built by grand achievements. The Stoics disagreed. Identity is built by repetition. You are not what you occasionally do. You are what you repeatedly choose. If you repeatedly choose patience, you become patient. If you repeatedly choose honesty, you become honest. If you repeatedly choose courage, you become courageous. Likewise, if you repeatedly choose excuses, procrastination, dishonesty, or resentment, those habits become part of your character. Every small decision shapes who you are becoming. Think about a sculptor creating a statue. One strike of the chisel changes very little, but thousands of careful strikes eventually reveal a masterpiece. Your character develops the same way. One honest decision, one disciplined morning, one calm response, one act of kindness, one promise kept. These moments seem insignificant, yet over the years, they become the foundation of your reputation. Not because people witnessed every choice, but because they eventually experienced the person those choices created. Why people naturally respect authenticity. There is something incredibly powerful about authenticity. People may not always be able to explain it, but they can feel it. Have you ever met someone whose words and actions always matched? Someone who didn't pretend to be perfect. Someone who admitted mistakes. Someone who stayed true to their values regardless of circumstances. Being around that kind of person feels different. You trust them, not because they never fail, but because they're genuine. Authenticity creates emotional safety. People know where they stand with you. They know you're not wearing different masks for different audiences. The Stoics understood that pretending to be someone else is exhausting. Eventually, the performance becomes heavier than the truth. That's why they encourage radical honesty with oneself, not brutal honesty toward others. Honesty with yourself. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Where do you need to improve? What fears are controlling your decisions? Only by answering those questions honestly can you become the person you hope to be. Stop seeking instant respect. One of the greatest mistakes people make is expecting respect to arrive overnight. They read one book, develop one habit, improve themselves for a week, then wonder why nothing has changed. But respect grows like a tree, slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. For a long time, it seems as though nothing is happening. Then one day, people begin trusting you, seeking your advice, depending on your word, valuing your presence, not because you demanded respect, but because your consistency earned it. The Stoics understood that time reveals character. Anyone can appear disciplined for a weekend. Anyone can pretend to be kind for a few days. But years of consistent action create a reputation that no speech ever could. Be patient with your growth. Don't chase immediate recognition. Focus on becoming someone worthy of lasting respect. The rest will take care of itself. The greatest form of respect. Let's consider one final question. What is the greatest form of respect? Many people would answer, being admired, being praised, being followed, being recognized. The Stoics would answer differently. The greatest form of respect is respecting yourself, because without self-respect, external respect means very little. Imagine the whole world applauding you while you secretly know you betrayed your own values. Would that applause bring peace? No. Now imagine very few people notice your efforts, but every night you go to bed knowing you acted with honesty, courage, fairness, and discipline. Which life is richer? The Stoic chooses a second, because self-respect creates a kind of confidence that cannot be taken away. It isn't based on compliments. It isn't destroyed by criticism. It doesn't rise with success or disappear with failure. It comes from knowing that, regardless of circumstances, you remain faithful to your principles. That is true freedom, bringing all 9 behaviors together. Let's revisit the 9 silent behaviors that instantly earn respect. 1. Remain calm when others expect you to react. Your response reveals your strength more than your emotions ever will. 2. Listen more than you speak. Wise people seek understanding before they seek attention. 3. Keep your promises. Reliability builds trust one commitment at a time. 4. Stop explaining yourself to everyone. Let your character answer questions that words never can. 5. Walk away from unnecessary conflict. Protect your peace instead of feeding your ego. 6. Stay humble even when you succeed. Success is brightest when it is carried with gratitude. 7. Treat everyone with quiet respect. Your character is revealed by how you treat those who can do nothing for you. 8. Become comfortable with solitude. The person who enjoys their own company is never desperate for approval. 9. Live by your principles, even when no one is watching. Integrity is a silent foundation upon which all respect is built. Notice something remarkable. Not one of these behaviors requires another person's permission. Every one of them is within your control. That is the heart of Stoicism. You cannot force people to respect you. You cannot control their opinions. You cannot make everyone appreciate your value. But you can become someone whose character naturally inspires respect. The final Stoic lesson. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself that your mind takes the shape of what it frequently thinks about. So ask yourself, what are you shaping today? Are you shaping resentment or patience? Are you shaping pride or humility? Are you shaping excuses or discipline? Every thought becomes a choice. Every choice becomes a habit. Every habit becomes your character. And your character becomes your legacy. Long after people forget your achievements, they will remember how you made them feel. They will remember whether your words match your actions. They will remember whether you remained calm when others lost control. They will remember whether you stood by your principles when compromise would have been easier. That is how respect is earned. Quietly, patiently, one decision at a time. In a world obsessed with being seen, choose to become someone worth remembering. In a world where everyone is trying to be louder, choose to become wiser. In a world where many chase approval, choose to build character. Remember this. Respect cannot be demanded. It cannot be bought. It cannot be forced. It is earned through thousands of silent choices that nobody applauds. The way you respond, the promises you keep, the discipline you practice, the kindness you show, the principles you refuse to abandon. These are the things that quietly shape your reputation. So beginning today, don't ask, how can I make people respect me? Ask instead, what kind of person am I becoming? Because when you become someone of integrity, discipline, humility, and inner peace, respect is no longer something you chase. It becomes something you naturally attract. And that's the timeless wisdom the Stoics wanted every one of us to understand. If you found value in this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more lessons on Stoic philosophy, emotional mastery, self-discipline, resilience, and timeless wisdom. Until next time, remember, master your mind, guard your character, live with virtue. Because the strongest person in the room is rarely the loudest. It's the one who has mastered themselves.